Good morning, everyone. How are you doing today? We are back with one rental at a time and the lovely Dana from Hemlane. How you doing, Dana?
Great. Thanks, Michael, for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we're talking about fair housing. We just did an important one, fair housing, episode 1. We got another topic with fair housing. It's called tenant occupancy 2+1 rule. Tell us what it is, why it's important, does it still in effect, all of that good stuff, Dana.
Yeah. So just to begin with, this is like a general rule of thumb because people always say, well, with tenants, how many people can live in a place? Can you have a tenant come with 100 people for a 3-bedroom
Yeah.
house? And so the general rule of thumb that was basically set by the Department of Fair Housing and Employment, or Employment and Fair Housing, was 2+1. So you would basically take the number of bedrooms. Each bedroom could have 2 people in it, right? And then +1. So that would always be the rule of thumb with fair housing. That, this was like 5 years ago that we just kind of knew, and that was the general rule of thumb. Well, some questions and concerns have come up with that more recently, which I think is really important to bring up. That 2+1 is like a general rule, but fair housing, at least in California, doesn't follow that any longer. That's no longer the rule.
I did not know that.
And the reason is because what they would say is with a studio. So if you're in a studio, there's some studios that are massive, right? They're huge. Like they're not really studios. And then it's like, oh, I can decline you because there's not really 1 bedroom. It's not a closed door.
Right.
And Michael, there's 2 of you.
Yeah.
It's you and your wife. So I'm going to decline you because there's 2 of you. And the 2+1 rule means because it's not a 1 bedroom and it's a studio, only 1 person can be here. And the cases were kind of made and brought up to fair housing of like, is that really legitimate? And so now you have to treat every case with having some additional backup on it. So potentially square footage could be something you use where it's truly like, I'm in San Francisco. Some of these studios are really small.
Yeah.
You can basically use square footage or fire code regulations or other things that are objective to back up why you have these occupancy rules and regulations. And that especially comes to light with studios, but also larger living spaces where you might question that, right? And then there's cases where there's places with a lot of rooms, but do they qualify as bedrooms, and all of that? Do they have windows, et cetera? And so from that perspective, there's no like one size fits all. That's a general rule, 2+1, but I wouldn't like set in stone and say, I'm going to do 2+1 and it's a studio, so only 1 person can be in it. You can get in trouble. So just make sure that you document your process, as we always mention, of why this is the maximum occupancy. And then there's like a lot of questions that I see and hear about, oh, well, more people is worse. So maybe I should take, Michael and his wife over these 4 people who are going to be living here. And really, I actually like more tenants over the age of 18 because it's less risk, right? Like if 2 people are living together and one of them has a job and the other doesn't, if that person loses a job, it's much more risky than, 4 tenants who are working professionals, where there's the default risk is less. So I would say, there's general rules of thumb, like the 2+1, but I wouldn't set them in stone and be very clear about this is the rule and this is how it is, because you can get in trouble, especially with those situations where bedrooms are larger, you have other rooms, et cetera. I would treat every single tenant going through your process of here's my objective criteria to qualify. And if you have restrictions on the number of people, why? Based on square footage, fire code, et cetera.
Yeah, the fire code one came up. Again, it's that black and white rule that some other organization has. I remember one time, I think it was 2 sisters wanted to go into, I think it was a 2-bedroom. It might have been a small 3. And by small 3, I mean 900 square feet, right? So it's not a massive house. I think they had 10 kids between them. So it would have been 12 people in a 3-bedroom.
Wow.
That was not going to start, right? And they were all were all under 12, I think, or something like that. I don't remember. It's a couple of years. But yeah, occupancy, it's something you have to watch, whether it's the Fair Housing 2+1 or have other rules. But I have seen it come up where, it's like, wow, you really want 15 people in this little small house. So it's definitely something that comes around. Again, folks, if you are looking to do self-management, fair housing is a thing. You need to watch out for it. You can look below. Himlane has a 30-day trial. They also give you a 20% discount. Any closing comments on this, Dana?
I think from that perspective, it's get education, right? Watch more videos from Michael Zuber. Make sure that you educate yourself on all of this stuff so that you act professional. It's going to make your life so much easier.
Very cool. Well, thank you very much, Dana. I look forward to episode number 3, where we're going to do a little show and tell.
Great. Thanks so much.
Mm-hmm.